So for this second session, we're going to develop a wide range of drawing techniques, this time using tone. And as you can see on this drawing, I've used tone quite substantially, and I've applied the heavy lines that we worked on in the last session. But here you can begin to see where lines get quite bold and then very, very fine and then bold again. And if you can make at the juncture of every space and shape just a little mark a bit deeper, it accentuates the contours of what you're drawing. So here you can see some cross-hatching, which we're going to explore, and some heavy tone, and we're going to introduce graphite stick at some point. And I'll explain how this can be created using the graphite pencils. So in review of what we've done before, we understand how the pencils go from hard to soft and the kind of marks that they make. But this time, if you can, I'd like you to introduce a graphite stick. And these can be bought in any art shop, and they're particularly good for little hands to make marks. This worksheet, we're going to explore how to make tone using a 2B pencil in different ways, from cross-hatching and to stippling. And we're also going to explore how to use that tone to go from light to dark in each of the processes. So we're going to use this edge of the 2B pencil to create tone. And just go down the page, just so that the pupils can get an idea of how they can create this soft tone. With the graphite stick, we're going to do exactly the same. And you can begin to see that more graphite goes on the paper and creates a much darker tone. Taking the 2B pencil again, we're going to start to understand how line creates tone. So you can keep the lines close together or as far apart as you like, but get the pupils to experiment making this grid. And do the same with the graphite pencil. And underneath you can develop that and add lines that go across at an angle and again. And repeat with the graphite stick. And you can see the difference that that makes. Now this is the noisy bit. This is called Stipple, and if you're using a graphite stick on a school desk, you need to wear earplugs because it will be really noisy. This is with the graphite stick, and you can begin to see the closer the dots are together, the darker it will get. If you try and do the same with a 2B pencil, you'd have to work much smaller, but it creates a more subtle way of creating tone by just using dots, and begin to see that a pale mark is being made. So using the graphite stick, we're going to work across from light to dark, and I find it's best to start with all the pressure that you can at this end before you actually get to the palest tone, and work your way across. There's a lot of control here, and then if your pupils are struggling, you can get them to use just the end of the graphite stick so it's not pressing so hard. So you go from less pressure to more pressure to create light to dark, and that's just with a graphite stick. And here we are using the cross-hatching technique. So if you hold the pencil in the middle and create marks that are very light, and then as you go on they can get darker. That's one way of creating tone, just by increasing the pressure. And also going across with the quick marks that we did in the first exercise, when the pencil tapers off at the end, you can begin to see that you've got a softer tone emerging. And then going from dark to light with those quick, swift marks again, you can see how you can create a range of tones just by using a simple line with a 2B pencil. Similarly, with the stipple effect, I'm going to go here if that's all right. Okay. The closer the dots are together, the deeper the lines will be. Now this is creating texture as well as tone. And I'll stop there and show you one that we made earlier. So we've used the 2B and the 2B graphite stick. You can use any of these. You might want to experiment with a graphite stick that is as soft as 6B. And we've got pale tones, dark tones, cross-hatching and stipple. Less pressure, more pressure, light to dark. When using the cross-hatching, keep the lines open and make them tighter together and darker pressured lines. So as they close together, they create the depth. And here with the texture, very gentle stipple marks made to very, very heavy ones with a lot of pressure on the paper. So this is where we apply the tone to create a three-dimensional effect, imagining that there's light coming from this side of the page. So we need to create dark, light and medium tones. And this is how I'm going to do it using just the graphite stick. So creating pressure to create the darkest tone. Can you pass me the ruler? Well, this is actually quite good to use a straight edge, because I know the children might go over the edge. And they might be happy with that, I don't know, but it's a good way of keeping control over the graphite stick. So that's as dark as I want to make that. And now I need to see if we can go somewhere between very pale and mid-range tone. So I'm using the graphite stick. Can you see I'm following the edges of the shape? Just very, very lightly. And then here it'll be hardly at all. You could blend it with your finger, and that's the next thing we need to consider, is how blending can affect the depth of the tone. Then I'm going to try and do the same again here using cross-hatching, keeping the lines quite firm. You don't have to be too neat, close together. You could just use straight lines and that would create the tone, but we're going to go across and cross-hatch this way, and then this way, and then this way. And you can begin to see how loosely I'm doing that as well. So again on the side, we're going to try and create a mid-tone. See if we can cross-hatch it. And then on the top, using really faint lines at an angle to create the lightest part of the cube. And then this time, we're going to use the stipple. This time we've got cylindrical shapes, and we're going to apply the same techniques to these. But you have to be gradient across the page, so you're not creating too much depth, and it creates a soft edge, and then very gently on the top to create a little bit of tone. You can build this up as much as you like. This time cross-hatching, so we're going to use the same technique again, but keeping the lines really faint and open. And again, the faster mark where the tapered edge of the line creates a softening effect. And we're going to do the same, but notice I've curved my cross-hatching lines this time. They're no longer as straight apart from the verticals. And you can begin to see how you can develop a dark side of the cylinder to the light side, and then just a soft stroke across the top. And again with the stipple, so the tighter the marks are together, the darker the tone will be, and you can go across to create that effect. So here's the finished product. So we've created tone, which has allowed us to create three-dimensional shape. There's nothing stopping you or your pupils combining all three, so you can add just the tone here, you can blend it into there, you can use your finger to smudge it along, and the same here, so you don't have to stick to each technique. You can draw with tone using variety of processes.